The April 27th, 2011 meeting of the Environment and Public Works Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Barker? Here. Mr. Beebe? Here. Chairman Cassetti?
Here.
Mr. Colby?
Here.
Mr. Haney? Here. Mr. Hyder? Here. And Mr. Helen is excused. President Adair?
Here.
Is there anyone present who's not, is there anyone present who signed up for the public forum?
We have one speaker tonight. You'll have 2 minutes in which to address the committee. Please conclude when the buzzer sounds. And David Soifter may come forward to address the committee.
For the record, could you give your name and your address, please?
Sure. I'm David Slichter. I live at 612 University Park in Rochester. I'm here because, so I live just south of Strong Hospital, and last Tuesday, as you may recall, we had a big rainstorm, and there was a problem with the drainage system in the area, led to flooding on a road called Castleman Road, and it ended up sort of pooling. Obviously, water accumulates, it has to go somewhere, and so it ended up basically flooding the apartment complex in which I live. The parking lot had about knee-deep water, so, and there were probably 30 cars which had flooding damage as a result of this. I mean, my car, just had cleaning damage, so, my bill was maybe $500, but there were, a number of people where it destroyed the electrical systems in their car. There was a garbage dump that was, the garbage got strewn around. Anyhow, I talked to some people after this happened, and I discovered that this was apparently not the first time that there had been a drainage problem there, that apparently 5 years ago an identical thing had happened. I assume there's been other damage to people outside of my apartment complex from the same flooding that happened, and I was referred by the city to the county because apparently the drainage is a county issue rather than a city issue, and I just wanted to bring this to your awareness so that you would know, because I mean sort of back of the envelope, we're talking about $20,000 of damage every time this happens, and if this is something which is going to happen every few years, it seems like it'd be pretty sensible to put in a couple of extra storm drains, or it may even be the problem is just that they're not getting cleaned, but it seems like it should be a pretty preventable thing. So.
Thank you. Yes, Legislator. Mr. Garland, are you familiar with this part of the county and any problems in the past that you're familiar with?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm not familiar with this specific problem. Certainly, I can look into that, whether it's an issue with the public infrastructure or perhaps private infrastructure on the site. And we can investigate that and pull any work that's been done in the past, and be happy to do that.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone present who's not signed up to speak for the public forum who would like to speak at this time? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the March 23rd, 2011 minutes of the Environment and Public Works Committee before you, and they will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next, before we get started, I would like to acknowledge Mr. Jim McIntosh, who's the Chief Engineer for the City of Rochester. Is Mr. McIntosh here? Hi, how are you? Welcome to the committee. Okay. The next item on the agenda is new business. Mr. Clerk.
Referral 11-111, authorizing.
Moved by Legislator Colby, seconded by Vice President Barker. Any discussion? Legislator Hyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And through you, I understand that the previous committee had requested the rating sheets. So I just had a follow-up question on the timetable for construction of the project.
Through the chair, Jason Kennedy with Environmental Services. The project is currently slated to assess and redevelop the master plan for the park through the balance of this year, 2011, and then any recommendations for capital improvement that came as a result are anticipated to be constructed in 2012.
So that would be a part of the next budget cycle. We would vote on that through you, Mr. Chair.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Also, please note that President Adair is voting ex officio. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Referral 11-117, authorize the contract.
Moved by Vice President Barker, seconded by President Adair. Any discussion? Legislator Haney.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, is this project in the CIP?
Through the chair, yes, this is in the 2011 CIP.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Again, please note President Adair voting ex officio.
Got it. Referral 11-118,
Moved
authorize.
by Legislator Colby, seconded by Legislator Barker. Any discussion? Legislator Colby.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, is this the first time we've done this type of procedure as a preventive maintenance? Is it a new strategy we're applying?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this is really a new strategy in enhancing our preventative and predictive maintenance. We have done it to a certain extent in the past utilizing kits where we test we take samples of the oil and send it out and get results back. This is expanding that testing capability by hiring this firm and being able to extend and prolong the life of the oils that we use.
So, through you, Mr. Chairman, if I understand it right, in my limited knowledge about some of this stuff, it has potential to be a cost savings above the cost to do these tests on two fronts. One, probably we won't use as much oil because we won't be changing it as often. And two, hopefully we catch some unusual wear that we didn't see coming ahead of time. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Thank you.
Legislator Hyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some of my questions were asked by Legislator Colby, but I did want to know who was the other contractor who bid on this project.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that contractor's name was Cayman Services.
Okay, great. And if you could provide us with the two rating sheets, that would be, or the rating sheet, that would be great.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Again, please note President Adair voting ex officio. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Referral 11-120, authorize contracts.
Moved by Legislator Colby, seconded by Legislator Barker. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor, Legislator Haney.
Was there a low bidder whose bid was withdrawn on this project?
Through the chair, yes, there was, and that was due to a clerical and math error when transferring the bid quote from the summary sheet to the bid proposal.
Which category hit is was that the Concord Electric?
Through the chair, that is correct.
What was their, through you, Mr. Chairman, what was their bid?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's listed on the first page of the referral, $121,000.
And you're satisfied, through you, Mr. Chairman, you're satisfied that that's a valid
Yes,
withdrawal?
through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, we do. We've researched that thoroughly and have a signed affidavit.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Again, please note President Adair, voting ex officio. Okay, next item, Mr. Clerk.
Referral 11-122,
Moved by Legislator Colby, seconded by Vice President Barker. Any discussion? Legislator Hyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to the administration. Again, this is a great program, the Waste to Watts program out at the landfill. I'm just wondering if you could explain a little bit more about what exactly this referral will do.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I guess in simple terms, this is for all intents and purposes, found money. We submitted a pre-application a few years ago. The state's finally caught up to their grant program, has asked to submit a final application. We're quite hopeful that we'll be successful with that application. It does require a legislative resolution to authorize us to apply and accept that funding if we're successful in that. It's 50% up to $4 million, or excuse me, 50% of $4 million. So we're hopeful that we'll be eligible for up to $2 million of costs associated with the Mill Seat Landfill Power Plant number 1.
And through you, Mr. Chair, that $2 million will be used to service the debt?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Great. No further questions.
Legislator Haney.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So introductory 122 relates to to what's already there?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that is correct. The existing power plant.
Okay. So they, the state is willing to accept the grant application for a project that was built a couple of years ago?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
So how much did that project, through you, Mr. Chairman, how much did the project cost us? Do you have any rough idea?
Roughly, through you, Mr. Chairman, about $10 million all
Okay.
cost. Yeah.
So if we're successful, they'd be giving us basically 20% of the cost of the project?
Through Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
And then this would be getting applied to the debt service that we'd ordinarily be paying for over the next couple of years, next few years?
Through Mr. Chairman, we had a 10-year low-interest loan through NYPA, New York Power Authority.
Okay. Now, Waste Management was involved in this project, and I can't remember the nature of the arrangement with Waste Management. Who is the real benefactor of the $2 million? Is it the county or is it Waste Management?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to defer to Mr. Adair relative to, we're reviewing the contract requirements that we have with Waste Management at this time, relative to what opportunities we have and what we're restricted in terms of how we can use that debt, but Mr. Adair is in the process of reviewing it.
You kind of answered my question.
Through Mr. Chairman, I guess that's a satisfactory answer from Mr. Adair's opinion.
It must be a tough question.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, we're reviewing that in terms of what our opportunities are relative to how we apply this grant funding.
Because as I recall, Waste Management, they're getting most of the revenue from the sale of the electricity, right?
Net proceeds, we share roughly 58 to Waste Management, 42 to Monroe County.
Right, but that's net. Is Waste Management on the front end paying the debt service?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we pay that debt service.
I knew I'd get to Mr. Adair sooner or later.
Through the chair, just to clarify, we're looking at the agreement right now to determine how this money can be applied. It is our intention to apply the majority of it if the law department and the state agree with us that this can be applied to our portion of the debt service and not be impacted by the sharing arrangement of the net revenues at the end of the day. But that determination has not been, we haven't been able to complete that at this time.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, before we get to the legislature meeting, if I think it would be important to see the law department's opinion on that, because if we're benefiting from the $2 million, that's a super idea. If waste management is benefiting from the $2 million, you know, I guess I'm not very enthusiastic if I'm saving waste management money.
Through the chair, just to clarify, the county would be, either way, the county would be benefiting because of our portion of the net revenue that comes back to the county. So we're looking to maximize it. We may not get all of it. It may be the final conclusion, but we are having the law department look into that.
Legislator Colby.
Chairman, just to clarify, this grant is not like we're applying for the grant today for something that we built 2 years ago. This grant was originally applied before we ever broke ground on that plant. Isn't that correct? I mean, 2008, the plant's only been up for 2.5 years.
Mr. Chairman, we applied for the grant shortly after the plant went online.
Legislator Adair, President Adair, did you raise your hand before? I wasn't sure. Oh, okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Please note again, President Adair voting ex officio. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
For 11-123, amended.
Moved by Legislator Barker, seconded by Legislator Colby. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Please note, President Adair again voting ex officio. And the next item, Mr. Clerk?
For 11-124, amend the 2011.
Moved by Legislator Colby, seconded by Vice President Barker. Any discussion? Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, unlike Intro 122, this is a new project we're talking about here, right? Is that correct? Okay. And how much of an increase in the capacity of the electrical generation will this be out there?
Sorry about that. Through the chair, this will be a total additional generation of 3.2 megawatts.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, that's how much was the first project?
The first project was a 6.4 megawatt plant.
Oh, so this will be a 50% increase then?
Correct. The first plant was an 8-engine, or now an 8-engine plant. This will be initially a 4-engine plant.
Okay. And through you, Mr. Chairman, what will Waste Management's involvement in this project be?
Through the chair, Waste Management's involvement in this project will be limited to its contractual obligations to collect and provide gas to the facility.
So in this project, the county will be the sole builder and owner of this project, and we will derive all of the revenue from the project?
This facility will be owned and financed by the county, and the revenue will be the county's revenue, but there may be potential to share that revenue as part of the operating agreement in lieu of paying a per megawatt charge or lesser per megawatt charge for O&M.
So, through you, Mr. Chairman, even though the county will be doing this project on its own, we may have to share some of the revenue with Waste Management?
we may share some of the revenue with who is, with Danforth, who's been selected as the operator of the plant. But that'll come back as a separate referral. This referral strictly for design services. Again, the revenue from the facility, similar to what happens with the current facility, we use to offset that on operating costs of the facility.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, Waste Management will have no involvement in this project other than delivering the methane?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay. On another issue, Mr. Chairman, this project is not in the CIP, is that correct?
That is correct.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, is there a reason why it's not in the CIP? I mean, when we were adopting the CIP, and I guess that's August of the year, we had no idea that we might do this?
Through the chair, at the time of the adoption of the CIP, we didn't have an adequate scope on the project to merit inclusion in the CIP.
Well, the project, Mr. Chairman, seems totally commendable. I am, over the years, have grown increasingly concerned about how the CIP, about how some of the major projects the county does are never in the CIP, so that the CIP really is not a comprehensive planning document. The new crime lab wasn't in the CIP. The pediatric center out on Henrietta Road wasn't in the CIP. It almost seems like all the non-routine things are never in the CIP, and I'm wondering why. I mean, the CIP is supposed to be a comprehensive planning document for how we're going to spend our limited capital funds. I'm wondering why none of these are ever in the CIP. I guess nobody can answer that. Okay. I mean, this project is commendable, and I'll certainly vote for it. But I'm growing increasingly concerned that the CIP is not fulfilling the function that a capital project program is supposed to fulfill.
Are there any further questions from you, Legislator Haney? Okay. Legislator Beebe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions. In regards to the revenue, can you give us an approximation of what amount of revenues we're currently making off of this first plant that's online? Through the chair.
Through the chair, the current plant is estimated to, I believe, net the county $464,000 in revenue in 2011.
All right, thank you. And through the chair, when the second plant goes online, do you have a predicted revenue taken in for that one?
Through the chair, over the life of the project, we anticipate that the project should net the county $1.38 million. However, as we finalize the design of the plant as well as its operational needs, that number may change, as well as the financing available at the time of construction.
All right, and through the chair, just to clarify, that 1.38 million, is that including both plants?
That is, through the chair, that is simply for the additional plant.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Please, again, note President Adair voting ex officio. Are there any other matters to come before the committee? Okay, before we wrap up, I want to again thank Mr. McIntosh from the city for joining us today, and please congratulate Mayor Richards and give him our regards. Okay. There being no further business, the April 27th, 2011 meeting of the Environmental Public Works Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting will be May 25th, 2011 at 4:30. Thank you.